I never thought the people who raised me, the ones who called themselves my family, would turn against me in the worst way possible. The day my 10-year-old daughter was slapped across the face because I refused to give my gambling-addicted brother money, something inside me snapped. That moment didn't just break my trust, it changed everything. If you think family always protects you, my story might shatter that belief forever. Hello, my name is Andrea, and I'm 32 years old. If you had asked me a year ago what the word family meant, I would have said loyalty, connection, and unconditional love. But after everything I've been through, I've learned that sometimes the people closest to you can also be the ones who hurt you the most. I didn't grow up in a warm or supportive home. I was the eldest child in a small suburban town called Aurora, Illinois. From the outside, our lives looked picture perfect: manicured lawn, clean sidewalks, family dinners. But inside those walls, everything was measured, weighed, and judged. My parents, Linda and Robert, believed in control. They had high standards, especially for me. I was the one who had to be responsible, who had to get straight A's, who had to be the role model. Meanwhile, my younger brother Travis was their pride and joy. No matter how many times he messed up, he was always forgiven, always comforted, always rescued. When Travis crashed his bike, he got a newer, better one. When I aced every test in school, I got a polite nod and was told, "Well, of course you did." I learned early on that I couldn't rely on my parents for emotional support. So I became self-reliant. While other teenagers were out partying, I was working part-time at a print shop and saving every cent. I wanted a way out, and I saw education as my ticket. I poured everything into my studies, eventually earning a scholarship to study digital media arts, a field that combined my love of creativity and technology. My parents' response was lukewarm at best. "That's nice," my mother had said. "But Travis is thinking of business school." I should have expected that. Everything was always about Travis. And he thrived in that attention. Well, thrived in the sense that he always had a soft place to land no matter how many times he failed. He dropped out of college 3 times, tried starting a food truck that lasted a summer, and once claimed he was working on a video game that never existed. Each time, my parents were right there, writing checks, paying rent, making excuses. Meanwhile, I was building something on my own. I graduated at the top of my class and landed internships that eventually turned into freelance contracts. I worked with small businesses, nonprofits, even a few local media outlets, helping them build digital branding, video content, and marketing materials. During my final year of university, I met Melvin. He worked in corporate IT and had a quiet, steady confidence about him. We met during a collaborative campus project. He was overseeing software logistics while I handled media content. There was an ease between us from the start. Melvin was different from anyone I'd known. He didn't just see me, he respected me. He encouraged me, made me feel heard, valued, important. We dated for 2 years and got married in a modest ceremony. My parents attended, though they hardly smiled. Travis didn't bother to come at all. Melvin and I made a life together. We weren't rich, but we were steady. We bought a small home in a nice neighborhood and welcomed our daughter Lily into the world. She was the light of our lives, curious, creative, kind. For a while, it felt like I'd finally built the family I had always wanted. My parents showed a sudden interest in my life again, but I quickly realized it wasn't because they cared about me. It was because Lily made them feel important again. They loved the role of grandparents, but even that came with conditions. They'd cancel visits at the last minute or complain if I didn't bring Lily over often enough. Still, I kept the peace, for Lily's sake. Then 2 years ago, everything changed. Melvin was driving home from work, the same route he took every evening, when a distracted driver ran a red light and crashed into his car at full speed. He died on impact. I can still remember the way the police officer's voice cracked when he gave me the news. One moment I had a husband. The next, I was a widow with a 6-year-old daughter and a mortgage. Grief swallowed me whole. There were nights I couldn't sleep, mornings I couldn't breathe, and moments where I didn't think I could survive. But Lily needed me. So I picked myself up and kept going. I restructured my digital media business, so I could work from home. I took on smaller clients, more flexible hours. I became mother, father, provider, and protector all in one. My parents helped occasionally, usually a babysitting session here and there, but their energy was still focused on Travis. Even after all these years, their golden boy was still chasing business ventures and failing one after the other. Every family gathering was tense. I'd overhear them asking Travis about his latest idea while ignoring my latest achievement. When Lily won a school art contest, my mother said, "Well, she gets it from her uncle." That was the dynamic, Travis the dreamer, me the unappreciated reality. But I tried to rise above it, to keep things cordial for Lily's sake. She loved her grandparents, and I didn't want to deny her that connection. I told myself they loved her, even if their love for me had always been conditional. What I didn't know then was that all of this, the favoritism, the neglect, the subtle insults, was only the beginning. That the worst betrayal was still waiting for me, just around the corner. And that it wouldn't come in the form of words or silence. It would come with a slap, the sting of which would echo far beyond a single moment. It would shatter everything I thought I had held together. The months after Melvin's death were the hardest of my life. I would put Lily to bed and sit in the living room in complete silence, staring at his empty chair. Some nights I cried until I couldn't breathe. Other nights I just sat there numb, trying to convince myself to keep going. But Lily needed me. She had already lost one parent. I couldn't let her lose the other to grief. So I kept pushing forward, keeping our home running and my business alive. I restructured everything. I took on freelance contracts that allowed me to work from home, focused on digital media management, video editing, and campaign designs for local brands. It was exhausting, but I made it work. My parents, Linda and Robert, made some half-hearted gestures of support. They offered to watch Lily once a month, and they came by on holidays, but their energy and resources were still primarily focused on Travis. My brother, despite being in his 30s, was still floating from one failed venture to another. There had been a gourmet popcorn stand, a dropshipping website, and an esports coaching company that existed only on paper. Each one ended the same way: unpaid debts, disappointed partners, and my parents picking up the pieces. I never once saw them question him the way they questioned me. Every time I voiced concern, my mother would say, "Travis just needs more encouragement. He's a visionary. You're the practical one. You'll always land on your feet." It was her backhanded way of saying, "Don't expect anything from us. You're not the one we need to worry about." Despite everything, I tried to maintain some form of relationship with them for Lily's sake. She adored her grandparents and loved spending time with them. I didn't want her to grow up feeling the same emotional distance I had. But keeping the peace meant biting my tongue more often than I should have. The subtle digs, the dismissive tone when I talked about my work, the way they lit up every time Travis walked in the room, it all built up inside me like pressure behind a dam. Then came the day everything broke. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I had just finished a long client call when I heard the doorbell ring. I wasn't expecting anyone. Lily was upstairs in her room, reading. I opened the door to find Travis standing there with his usual overconfident smile, dressed in clothes he definitely couldn't afford. "Hey, sis," he said, brushing past me into the kitchen without waiting for an invitation. "You got coffee?" I forced a polite smile and followed him. "What brings you by?" I asked. "I've got about 15 minutes before my next deadline." "Don't worry," he said, pouring himself a cup from the pot I'd just made. "This won't take long. I just wanted to share a little opportunity with you." That was when my stomach dropped. Travis never visited unless he wanted something. He launched into a speech about how he'd found a way to finally turn his life around. "Gambling's changed, Andrea," he said. "It's all about strategy now. I've got a system. I just need a little bit of capital to get it rolling. Once I hit the streak I'm predicting, it'll multiply like crazy." "How much?" I asked, already dreading the answer. 25,000. "But it's not a loan, it's an investment. I'll pay back with interest in 6 months. Promise." I stared at him in disbelief. "You want me to give you $25,000 so you can gamble it?" "It's not just gambling," he said defensively. "It's targeted betting. I've done the math. It's a real opportunity." No, I said, standing up. Absolutely not. That's Lily's college fund. That's rent. That's food. You've already blown through mom and dad's retirement savings chasing ridiculous ideas. I'm not your next victim. Travis's smile vanished. His eyes narrowed.
Wow.
So, this is how you treat family? Family? I repeated, my voice rising. You mean the family that has spent 30 years telling me I'm too strong to need help while enabling your every mistake? At that moment, I heard Lily come down the stairs. She stood in the doorway, sensing the tension. Mom, she said softly, is everything okay? Go back upstairs, sweetie, I said, trying to stay calm. But Travis wasn't done. You're pathetic, he snapped. Always playing the martyr. Always thinking you're better than everyone else. You just love seeing me fail.
No, I said.
I hate seeing you take advantage of everyone around you. And then, like a flash of lightning, it happened. My mother Linda appeared behind Travis, having come in through the unlocked side door. What's going on? She asked, looking between us. She's refusing to help me, Travis said. She has the money. She just won't give it. My mother turned to me, her eyes blazing. Andrea, he's your brother. We raised you better than this. You raised me to be silent, I replied. To carry everything while he got to fall apart over and over. Don't talk to your mother like that, she barked. Lily stepped forward. Please stop yelling, she whispered. You're scaring me. And then it happened. Before I could react, Linda's hand flew through the air and landed with a crack across Lily's face. The sound echoed in the kitchen. Lily stumbled back, tears filling her eyes. I froze for a second, disbelief flooding through me. Then I moved like a storm. I wrapped my arms around Lily and turned to face my mother.
Get out
of
my house,
I said through gritted teeth. You too, Travis. And don't ever come near my daughter again. My mother looked like she wanted to argue, but one look at my face stopped her. They left without another word, slamming the door behind them. I held Lily for what felt like hours, whispering over and over, You're safe. I'm here. You did nothing wrong. She shook in my arms, a bright red mark on her cheek, and all I could feel was rage. Not just at what had happened, but at the years of silence, the years I let them minimize me, ignore me, make me question my worth. That ended now. Everything changed the moment my daughter was hurt. My silence was over. My boundaries had just become walls. The next morning, I made 2 phone calls, one to my lawyer and one to Lily's school to notify them of a potential custody-related incident, just in case. Rebecca Moore, a family law attorney I'd met through a former client, picked up on the second ring.
I didn't waste time.
My mother slapped my daughter in my own home yesterday in front of me and my brother. I want to press charges. I want protection. I want this documented officially. Rebecca didn't hesitate. She asked me to email a written summary of what happened and assured me she'd file for an emergency protection order. I could hear the urgency in her voice. She knew this wasn't just about a slap. It was about years of erosion finally culminating in violence. Lily's cheek was still slightly swollen, and she had a hard time sleeping that night. I stayed with her, curled in her bed, stroking her hair and whispering that she was brave, that none of it was her fault. She hadn't spoken much since the incident, only nodded or looked at me with uncertain eyes. By the next afternoon, we were sitting in Rebecca's office, where I signed the formal complaint. You've done the right thing, she said, placing the document into a folder. Your daughter deserves to feel safe. And so do you. It didn't take long for things to escalate further. My parents, predictably, were furious. I received a barrage of texts and calls, first from my mother, then my father, and finally a string of venom-laced voicemails from Travis. So this is how you repay us, one of them hissed. You're tearing this family apart. But I didn't respond. I didn't owe them any more explanations. The moment they allowed harm to come to Lily, they forfeited any right to my consideration. Amanda showed up at my house that evening with grocery bags in one hand and a bouquet of sunflowers in the other. You don't have to do this alone, she said, hugging me tightly. We've got you. She helped me set up a meal plan, offered to pick up Lily from school when needed, and even spent the weekend with us, just so I wouldn't feel overwhelmed. I don't think I can go to sleep without watching the door anymore, I admitted as we sat on the couch late that night. I keep expecting them to come back, to scream at me, to try and twist it all again. Amanda didn't say anything for a moment, then softly replied, "That's the thing about abusers. They don't just take your peace. They make you doubt whether you deserve any in the first place." The next week was a whirlwind. Lily started therapy with Dr. Matthew Clark, a child psychologist recommended by Rebecca. He had a calm, comforting presence that seemed to reach Lily faster than I expected. After the first session, he gently told me, "She's hurt, but she's resilient. We'll work on this together." Meanwhile, Rebecca officially filed charges for child endangerment and emotional abuse against my mother. There was also a secondary motion regarding Travis, one that would prevent him from being within 500 feet of Lily or myself, citing verbal intimidation and indirect facilitation of harm. Then came a twist I wasn't prepared for. A few days later, Rebecca called again. "Andrea, I've just received a call from Agent Thomas Gray with the FBI. He's looking into a financial fraud case, something tied to gambling circles, and Travis's name has surfaced." I blinked, confused. "What kind of fraud?" "Apparently, your brother's been involved in some type of online betting network, recruiting people into high-risk investment pools masked as gambling systems. It's being treated as part of a larger scam ring. The agent wants to speak with you because of your recent contact with Travis." My mind spun. So, it wasn't just $25,000 for betting, it was a whole operation? "Looks like it," she confirmed. That evening, I sat at my desk long after Lily had gone to bed, reviewing everything that had happened in the last 2 weeks. I opened my email, sorting through dozens of unread messages, when one caught my attention. "No sender. Subject line blank." The message inside read, "Your brother's not just broke, he's bait. He's using you." Attached were several PDFs. I opened them with trembling hands. Emails.
Dozens of them.
Travis writing to someone named Calvin about potential leads, family money, and easy targets. One line burned itself into my brain. "My parents are good for at least $100,000. My sister's stubborn, but I'm working on her." It was all there in black and white. The next morning, Agent Thomas Gray arrived at my home. He was calm, professional, and unexpectedly kind. "We believe your brother is a mid-level recruiter in a financial exploitation ring operating through online gambling and investment forums," he said. "We're not here to arrest him yet, but the evidence is stacking up fast." I handed him the email I'd received. He nodded, confirming its legitimacy. "Thank you. This will help a lot. You did the right thing, Andrea." As I closed the door behind him, I felt a strange sense of release. Not relief exactly, but something close. All the lies, the manipulation, the violence, it wasn't just happening in a vacuum. It was part of a pattern. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't ignoring it. I was standing against it. I didn't know what would happen next with the FBI or the courts. But I did know one thing with absolute certainty. I was done playing the role of the accommodating daughter and the quiet sister. I wasn't protecting Travis anymore. I was protecting Lily. And I'd burn every bridge I had to if it meant keeping her safe. Within days of my conversation with Agent Thomas Gray, the atmosphere in my home shifted from quiet dread to active defense. I installed a home security system, something I'd never thought necessary in our peaceful Aurora neighborhood. But now I wasn't taking chances. Amanda helped me install cameras at the front and back doors, and I changed all the locks. My daughter Lily, only 10, watched all of this with wide eyes. She didn't ask questions, but I could see the confusion and tension settling into her small frame. Dr. Matthew Clark, her therapist, assured me this reaction was normal. "She's internalizing a world that suddenly doesn't feel safe," he explained. "The best thing you can do now is continue being consistent, honest, and present." Meanwhile, Rebecca Moore was preparing for our first court appearance. The charges filed against my mother Linda were serious: child endangerment and assault of a minor. The protection order had already been granted, but Rebecca warned me, these kinds of cases involving family can be tricky. Judges often push for mediation and reconciliation. We have to be very clear that this isn't just a family squabble. This is a pattern of emotional abuse that escalated into physical harm. I knew she was right. The morning we appeared in court, I dressed Lily in her favorite blue cardigan and reminded her again that she wouldn't have to say anything. Amanda came with us and held her hand as we entered the courthouse. The moment we stepped into the hallway and I saw my parents on the bench outside the courtroom, a sharp chill ran down my spine. My mother's eyes met mine briefly, no remorse, no sadness, just a cold flicker of annoyance. My father refused to look at me at all. Travis was not there, and for that I was grateful. According to Rebecca, he was likely lying low due to the FBI inquiry. I had handed over the email evidence to Agent Gray, and he assured me their investigation was progressing quickly. "We're building a larger case," he said. "But your brother's actions, particularly what he did involving your parents and your daughter, may land him in far more serious trouble than he expects." In court, the judge read through the documentation, listened to Rebecca's statements, and issued a continuation of the protection order. Linda was not permitted to contact me or Lily in any form. She was to attend mandatory counseling if she wanted the court to even consider supervised visitation rights in the future. When the judge asked if Linda had anything to say, she stood up and spoke only one sentence: "My daughter has always been dramatic." That sentence, more than anything, confirmed for me that she had learned absolutely nothing. Back home, the emotional weight began to settle. I could see it in Lily's face.
She was more reserved now.
She clung to me more tightly at bedtime, asked more often if I would be home when she returned from school. Dr. Clark continued working with her, using art and play therapy to help her process what she'd experienced. "She's strong," he told me after one session. "But the longer-term damage comes from not being believed or protected. You've done everything right by making sure she feels safe again." Work, thankfully, had become my anchor. Clients were understanding when I needed flexibility, and a few even sent encouraging notes. One of my long-term clients, a local publishing house, extended a new contract with better pay and more freedom. I accepted it gratefully. It meant more stability for Lily and me. I also hired a virtual assistant to handle scheduling and bookkeeping so I could focus more on projects and parenting. Just when things seemed to be stabilizing, a registered letter arrived at my door. It was from my parents' lawyer, requesting a meeting to discuss the family's future. Rebecca advised against attending alone. If they really wanted to make amends, they would have started with an apology, not a legal document, she said. But I was curious. What more could they possibly want? So we scheduled the meeting at Rebecca's office with her present the entire time. My parents arrived 5 minutes late. My father looked tired, aged. My mother still carried herself like someone who believed she was the victim of a misunderstanding. "We just want things to go back to normal," my father began. "Lily is our granddaughter. We should be allowed to see her." "You slapped her," I said, staring directly at my mother. "You let Travis insult and threaten me in my own home, and you told your granddaughter that I was selfish and cruel. What part of that is normal to you?" Rebecca handed them a formal agreement outlining the only path to future contact: therapy sessions, a written apology to Lily, full cooperation with law enforcement, and no unsupervised visits under any circumstances. My mother scoffed. "This is absurd. You're acting like we're criminals." "You assaulted a child," Rebecca replied flatly. "The state sees that as a crime." "You've turned Lily against us," my father added. "No," I said calmly. "You did that all on your own." When they left, refusing to sign, Rebecca gave me a long look. "Don't expect closure from them, Andrea. Some people never learn. But that doesn't mean you can't move forward without them." And I was ready to do exactly that. Meanwhile, Agent Gray called with an update. Travis was now officially a person of interest in the gambling fraud case. He wasn't just participating, the agent said. He was recruiting others, likely promising them high returns, taking cuts, and filtering money through dummy accounts. We've connected him to at least 3 victims so far. "Do you need more from me?" I asked.
"Possibly," he said.
If we find evidence that your parents knowingly gave him money under false pretenses, they may face consequences too. But our primary target is Travis." He paused. "You were wise not to give him anything." That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she looked up at me and asked, "Are Grandma and Grandpa going to disappear forever?" I hesitated, unsure how to answer. "Maybe not forever," I said. "But for now, they're not part of our everyday life."
And that's okay.
Because sometimes the people who are supposed to love us the most, they don't know how to do it the right way. And we have to keep ourselves safe. She nodded slowly. "I feel safer now." And in that moment, so did I. We had a long road ahead, legal battles, therapy, rebuilding trust, but we were no longer walking it alone. Amanda was with us. Rebecca was with us. Dr. Clark was with us. And more than anything, I had finally chosen to be with myself, fully, fiercely, and without apology. 3 days after the legal meeting with my parents, I received another call from Agent Thomas Gray. His tone was more urgent than before. "Andrea," he said, "we've made significant progress in our investigation into the fraud ring Travis was part of. We've arrested 2 key operators behind the network. Your brother's name is coming up frequently in their communications." I felt my stomach tighten. "Is he going to be arrested?" I asked. "Not yet," the agent replied. "But we believe he was acting as a mid-level recruiter, convincing others, especially family members, to contribute funds that were funneled directly into the scam. He's not just a victim here. He may have knowingly participated." As I hung up, my thoughts began to spiral. Travis had tried to get $25,000 from me under the guise of a gambling system. He knew our parents were easy targets, and clearly, he'd succeeded in manipulating them. But what I hadn't considered before was just how deliberate it all had been. Not a desperate brother looking for help, but a man playing his own family like chess pieces. Later that afternoon, I received another anonymous email, this time with a subject line that simply read, "Proof." Attached were several damning files, email exchanges between Travis and the scam's founders discussing payout percentages, commission structures, and target strategies. In one email, Travis wrote, "My parents already refinanced their house. That should free up at least $150,000. Working on my sister. She's skeptical, but emotional manipulation might get her there." That last sentence hit me harder than any slap ever could. I immediately forwarded the emails to Rebecca and Agent Gray. Rebecca called within the hour. "This confirms it, Andrea. He wasn't duped, he was a knowing participant." I asked her if this would change anything legally regarding my parents. She paused. "If they were manipulated, they may be seen as victims. But if they were aware of his intent and still went along with it, there could be legal implications. Either way, it strengthens your case in terms of protecting Lily. The court needs to see that you were right to draw boundaries." The following day, Agent Gray visited my home again, this time with 2 additional agents. Lily was at Amanda's house for a sleepover, thankfully spared from the sight of law enforcement gathering evidence in our living room. "We're planning to bring your brother in for questioning this week," Agent Gray explained. "These new emails provide clear indication of intent. Whether or not he cooperates will determine the next steps." I asked if I needed to testify, and he shook his head. "Not yet. You've done more than enough. But we may ask for your official affidavit later." The next morning brought a twist I didn't see coming. There was a knock at my door. I opened it to find my father, Robert, standing on the porch, looking more defeated than I had ever seen him. His suit was wrinkled, his face hollow, his hair uncombed. "Dad," I said, caught between caution and confusion. "What are you doing here?" He looked around, then spoke in a strained voice. "Can I come in? Just for a few minutes?" Against my better judgment, I let him in, but only into the living room, keeping the door slightly ajar. "I came to say we've lost the house," he said flatly. "We missed 3 mortgage payments. The bank served us foreclosure notice yesterday." He didn't look at me while he spoke. "Your mother's staying with your cousin Susan now. I've been sleeping in my car." I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt vindicated. Another part felt the familiar ache of disappointment. "I tried to warn you," I said. I begged you not to give him money. He nodded slowly. I know. And I didn't listen. I wanted to believe him, because he was all we had left. Your mother and I, we were afraid. Afraid of what? I asked. Of being wrong? Of losing your golden child? My father sighed. Afraid of admitting that we let one child destroy the other. For a fleeting moment, I saw something in his face that I hadn't seen in years. Regret. Real, heavy regret. Then he looked at me again, pleading.
We need help, Andrea.
We have nowhere else to go. I stood there in silence, arms crossed over my chest. You left my daughter terrified in her own home. You took your son's side, even when he manipulated you. And now you want a place to stay? We didn't know it would go this far, he said. We made a mistake. No, I snapped. You made a choice. 100 choices. Every time you bailed Travis out, every time you ignored what he was doing, every time you told me to be quiet or called me dramatic, you chose him over me. And now, you've paid the price. I'm sorry for your situation, but I won't let you bring that toxicity into Lily's life again. My father opened his mouth, but I raised my hand to stop him. If you want to talk about repair, if you want a chance at seeing your granddaughter again, you'll do it through therapy. With a professional. Not here. Not like this. He left without another word. That evening, Agent Gray called with one final update. We brought Travis in for questioning. He's cooperating. He's admitted to recruiting family and close acquaintances under false pretenses. He's struck a deal. He'll avoid jail time, but will serve 5 years of probation, attend mandatory gambling addiction treatment, and complete 1,000 hours of community service. I let out a slow breath. And my parents? We're treating them as financial victims for now. But the court has enough information to keep your daughter protected. I thanked him and hung up, sinking into the couch. My world had been turned inside out, but for the first time, it felt like the truth had finally caught up with the lies. My parents had lost everything. My brother had been exposed. The law had done its job. And I, tired, heartbroken, but steady, had protected my daughter and myself from a lifetime of further harm. The next morning, Lily asked me at breakfast, "Are they gone forever?" I looked at her, her big brown eyes filled with uncertainty. "They're not part of our life right now," I said gently. "And that's okay. We're safe. That's what matters." She nodded, then smiled softly. "Can we invite Amanda over tonight? I like it when she reads to me." "Absolutely," I said, reaching for her hand. "She's part of our real family now." 2 weeks later, Rebecca called me to schedule the first court hearing where Travis would formally accept his plea deal.
You don't have to be there, she said.
The agreement is already in place, but if you want to hear it read into the record, you're entitled. I didn't hesitate. I'll be there. I want to hear him admit it. Amanda agreed to come with me. Lily stayed with Dr. Clark's assistant, who offered to keep her company during her weekly play therapy. I didn't want my daughter anywhere near that courthouse. She had already suffered enough. The courtroom felt smaller than I remembered. Travis sat at the defense table, hands folded, dressed neatly, but without his usual arrogant flair. He looked pale, thinner, like the weight of the last few weeks had finally settled on his shoulders. When the judge read the charges, fraudulent recruitment, coercive solicitation of family funds, and attempted financial deception of a minor's legal guardian, Travis stood and answered clearly, "Guilty, Your Honor." There was no applause, no drama, just paperwork and a gavel's echo. His punishment, though not jail, was significant. He would be monitored under strict federal probation, complete therapy for gambling addiction, and perform community service at financial literacy centers. As we exited, he caught my eye. I didn't stop. Amanda placed her hand on my back, guiding me forward. A few days later, an official letter arrived from my parents' address. I debated opening it, unsure if it would be another guilt trip or denial. But I tore it open anyway. It was from my mother. The handwriting was neat but unsteady. She didn't ask for forgiveness, not directly. She didn't deny what had happened. The letter said, "Andrea, I don't expect you to read this, much less respond. But I've been attending counseling like the court recommended. I'm beginning to understand what we did to you. To Lily. How we ignored so much for so long. You don't have to forgive us. I don't know if I even deserve to ask.
But I want to try.
Not to go back, just to move forward differently. Tell Lily.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't much, but it was more than I expected. Dr. Clark said it was Lily's choice whether she wanted to respond. After I explained the letter in simple terms, Lily quietly said, maybe someday. But not yet. Fair enough. Meanwhile, our life slowly shifted toward something brighter. Amanda and her husband, James, had become a regular part of our weekly routines. They picked Lily up from school when I was swamped with client deadlines, came over for dinner every Friday, and joined us for Sunday walks in the park. One afternoon, I sat with Amanda at our kitchen table and asked, would you two consider being Lily's legal guardians? In case anything ever happens to me. Amanda's eyes welled with tears. Of course we will, she whispered. You didn't even need to ask. Legally, Rebecca helped me draft the documents. Amanda and James signed without hesitation. Work began to pick up again. My name circulated through the design community as someone who'd held her business together through intense personal struggle, and with that came new contracts. I was invited to speak at a local women's entrepreneur event. It felt surreal. 6 months ago, I had felt buried. Now, I was standing in front of others as proof that survival and success could coexist. Then came Lily's 11th birthday. I kept the celebration small, just Amanda and James, a few close friends from school, and a cake she helped me bake. When we lit the candles, Lily turned to me and said, Mom, this is my best birthday ever. Not because it was big or flashy, but because there was no tension, no arguments, no waiting for someone to ruin it. A few days later, Rebecca received confirmation from the court that our family protection case was closed. The restraining orders remained on file and active. No one had contested. My parents had disappeared back into their own broken world. I didn't reach out. I didn't need closure anymore. I had created my own. One evening, I sat with Lily on the back porch of our new home, the one I'd bought just a few blocks away to keep her in the same school, surrounded by the friends and adults who had become our true support system. Fireflies flickered across the grass. She leaned into me and asked, do you think people like Uncle Travis or Grandma can change? I thought about it for a long moment. Maybe, I said, but only if they really want to. And even then, it doesn't mean we owe them anything. Lily nodded. I don't want them to come back. But I don't want to hate them either. That's okay, I said, wrapping my arm around her. You don't have to hate them. You just have to protect your heart. And I'll always help you do that. That night, I finally slept without fear. Not because the past was erased, but because I had reclaimed control over what came next. And because Lily, my brave, gentle daughter, was learning to do the same. The day we moved into our new home felt like the first page of a brand new chapter. The house wasn't much bigger than our old one, but it felt entirely different, like every wall had been built with peace in mind. It sat on a quiet street not far from Lily's school, and it had a backyard filled with overgrown wildflowers and the rusted frame of a swing set that Amanda's husband James offered to replace the following weekend. For Lily, it was a promise of something stable. For me, it was a line in the sand. This was where the cycle ended. Amanda helped us unpack, and James surprised Lily with a telescope for her bedroom window. So you can chart your own constellations, he said, kneeling beside her. She hugged him like he'd just given her the moon itself. That night, she stayed up late drawing stars on paper and taping them above her bed. The sky was hers now, too. We started forming new rituals, simple things like Friday night game nights, pancake breakfasts on Sunday, and quiet Saturday afternoons where Lily would read and I would sit at my laptop, working on client campaigns without the tension of family drama buzzing in the background. The silence had changed. It was no longer heavy and uncertain. It was peaceful. It was earned. In therapy, Dr. Clark told me Lily had made remarkable progress. She still asks about them sometimes, he said gently, but she's stopped blaming herself. That's a sign of deep healing. One day, after session, Lily surprised me. Can I send Grandma a card? She asked. Not to see her. Just to tell her I'm okay. I nodded, letting her lead. She wrote a simple note in her neatest handwriting. I'm doing well. School is good. I have friends, and I'm happy. I hope you're okay too. She didn't ask if Grandma would write back, and I didn't promise anything. Meanwhile, Amanda and James officially became Lily's legal guardians. We went to the courthouse with Rebecca to finalize the paperwork, and I held back tears as Amanda signed the documents with a steady hand. Your family, I told them. Not by blood, but by every choice that matters. Amanda pulled me into a hug. Always have been. The support from our community deepened. Lily's school teacher, Miss Thomas, started sending her extra books that matched her interests. The principal stopped by our new place to drop off a welcome card signed by classmates. A few of my clients referred me to their own networks, and for the first time in years, I hired a second freelancer to help with overflow work. My small business wasn't just surviving, it was growing. Then came a surprise I didn't expect. One afternoon, I received a letter from Travis. It was handwritten, with no return address. I debated whether to open it at all. When I finally did, I found a letter filled with unexpected honesty. Andrea, I've been in treatment for 3 months now. Part of the recovery process involves making amends, not because I expect forgiveness, but because I need to acknowledge the damage I caused. I hurt you. I hurt Lily. I lied, manipulated, and took everything for granted. I was angry when you refused to help me, but I understand now why you did. I wish I could take back everything I did to our family. I don't expect to be in your life again, but I hope one day Lily will know I'm sorry, even if she never wants to hear it from me. Travis. I read the letter several times before folding it and placing it in a drawer. I didn't respond, but a part of me felt something crack, perhaps not forgiveness, but a release. I didn't have to carry his guilt anymore. That was his burden now. Months passed quietly. Lily flourished in school. She started drawing again, space, animals, scenes of happy families that she crafted on her own terms. She wrote stories too, some of them about girls who stood up for themselves, who built new homes with brave hearts. Dr. Clark encouraged her creative expression. She's processing through empowerment, he explained. It's a powerful sign of resilience. One evening, while watching a meteor shower from our new backyard, Lily leaned her head on my shoulder and said, I like our life now, even if it's different. I smiled. Different can be beautiful, sweetheart. She nodded. I think we're kind of like stars. We went through something dark, but we still shine. In that moment, I realized the depth of what we'd built, not just safety, not just survival, but something luminous and lasting. 6 months after we moved into our new home, we hosted a small gathering, just a few friends, Amanda and James, Lily's teacher Miss Thomas, Dr. Clark and his wife, and our neighbor Joyce, who always left fresh oranges by our door when Lily had a cold. It wasn't extravagant, just paper lanterns in the backyard, a fold-out table of snacks, and laughter that drifted into the spring night air like music. I looked around at the faces of the people who had chosen to stay, to support us, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. This wasn't the family I was born into. This was the family we built. And for the first time in my life, it felt whole. Later that night, when the guests had left and Lily was fast asleep with cookie crumbs on her pillow and her sketchbook tucked under her arm, I sat on the porch alone and opened my laptop. There was a new message waiting for me from the local women's business collective. They wanted to feature me in their newsletter. A local media designer and single mother who rebuilt her life and her business after tragedy and betrayal. I stared at the words, letting them sink in. Tragedy, betrayal, but also rebuilt. That was the story now. Days later, we received a final update from Rebecca. Your court orders have all been upheld, she said. Your parents made no further contact. And Travis completed his first phase of treatment. The state considers the case closed unless something new arises. It felt like closing the door gently on a chapter that once slammed violently shut. Sometime after, I received one last letter from my mother. It was brief. No denial. No manipulation. Just 3 simple lines. Andrea, thank you for protecting Lily. You're a better mother than I ever knew how to be. There was no return address. I didn't write back. I didn't need to. Some endings didn't require words. Just distance. And boundaries. One weekend, while cleaning out an old box, I found a photo of my younger self, maybe 10 or 11, holding a school award and smiling nervously while Travis grinned next to me. My parents were in the background, applauding for him. That old hollow ache flared in my chest, but then faded. That little girl didn't live in me anymore. She had grown up, become a mother, protected her daughter from the same shadows. She had broken the cycle. Lily and I began volunteering once a month at a local community shelter. We helped other single moms organize resumes, put together design portfolios, even create social media pages for their small startups. Lily always tagged along, handing out juice boxes and drawing smiley faces on the corners of the flyers. "You're helping people do what you do," she said once. "Show their story." She was right. Amanda and James eventually accepted my formal request to name them as Lily's godparents. We sat around the dinner table one night, all of us signing the final paperwork. Lily hugged them both, beaming. "Now we're a real team," she said. And we were. One evening, Lily and I were looking through old photos and she asked, "Do you think Uncle Travis really changed?" I paused. "Maybe," I said. "But it's not our job to wait and see. It's his job to prove it to himself. And even then, some doors stay closed." She nodded, thoughtful. "I don't want him back in our lives. But I hope he gets better." "That's called compassion," I told her. "It's different from trust. You can wish someone well without giving them the chance to hurt you again." Lily smiled and turned the page. That night, as she slept, I walked through our home. Our kitchen filled with Lily's drawings, the hallway lined with stars she cut out from paper, the scent of lavender from the candle Amanda had gifted me. This was peace. Not perfection. Not forgetting the past. But peace born from truth, from safety, from choice. I finally understood what family really meant. Not those who share your blood, but those who show up. Who stand beside you when the world falls apart. Who never ask you to shrink or suffer for their comfort. The ones who celebrate your boundaries, not punish you for them. In the end, I didn't get justice in the traditional sense. My brother didn't go to jail. My parents never offered a tearful reunion. But what I got was worth more than any courtroom victory. I got freedom. I got clarity. And most of all, I got to teach my daughter that love should never hurt, never control, never betray. As the seasons changed, our life continued to bloom. Not without scars, but full of strength. We built a life on our own terms. And with every day, we wrote a new story. Not about survival, but about wholeness. If you're still listening, thank you for being a part of this journey. If you've ever stood your ground against a toxic family, if you've ever chosen peace over pleasing others, this story was for you. Because sometimes protecting your child means breaking every inherited rule. And sometimes family isn't something you're born into. It's something you build brick by brick, boundary by boundary, with your own two hands. And when you do, it's stronger than anything you ever lost. If this story touched your heart or made you reflect on your own journey, please take a moment to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to make a painful decision to protect yourself or someone you love? We'd love to hear your experience. And if you'd like to hear more powerful real-life stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. New stories are posted regularly to remind you that healing, growth, and strength are always possible, even after the darkest chapters. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the most important family is the one you choose.